I think deep down in our core, most Americans don't want to work for somebody. I think we want to work for ourselves. And so to see that really developing in our children and them really being inspired to start of their own business, whatever that might be, I think that's just amazing for them. And it's going to set them up for success when they're older, to show that they can create their own business, they can work for themselves, and they have the skills to do it, and that they can do hard things.
Welcome to Our Life Homeschooling. My name is Sherry, Christian, wife to my high school sweetheart Nelson, and thankful mom to 10 incredible kids. I'm the author of the blog and YouTube channel Our Life Homeschooling, where I share homeschooling encouragement for everyday moms. I believe that motherhood is ministry, and homeschooling is simply an extension of parenting. My passion is to cheer on other moms who are at home doing the most important work of all, raising the next generation for the glory of God. Welcome back to the Our Life Homeschooling podcast. I am excited to share with you today's guest. This is my friend Leah. You can find her on Instagram at Little Farmhouse on Felton. She is a homeschooling mom of 7. She's a friend of mine. We work in co-op every week together. We teach the sewing class at our co-op. So lots of great memories with her. Our families are friends. Our kids are friends. And I can't wait to share this interview with you. So let's go ahead and get started. Hi, Leah.
Hey!
Thanks so much for meeting up with me today. This is so nice that we have just this little spot in our afternoon that we can talk a little bit and catch up. So
yeah, I'm excited to be here.
So I know a lot about you. We're friends. We talk every week at co-op, but I'm going to have you introduce yourself to my viewers.
Okay. So I am a mom to 7. My oldest is 12. My youngest is about 20 months, and 6 of those are girls. So we have a very girly household, and it's a lot of fun, but also a lot of like rough and tumble mixed in there. So I'm a stay-at-home mom. I used to be a nurse, but my dream was always to be a mom and stay home with my kids. And so we really thrive with like that farming lifestyle and homeschooling and just living our days together.
And you guys, you didn't always plan to homeschool, right? Was that always on your radar?
No, quite the opposite. I grew up going to private school, and just some things that happened during my high school years, I swore I would never send my kids to private school, or definitely not homeschooling. They were going to public school. I distinctly remember in 8th grade sitting in my Bible class thinking, how can he support his family on a private school income? I would never marry a private school teacher. And then God laughed and introduced me to my husband, who was a private school teacher. So when we got married, the plan was for us to send the kids to his school that he was teaching at. And so, that kind of changed my plan a little bit. But when our oldest was probably 2, I sent her to what was like the early learning center at that school, because I thought that's what you did. You sent your 2 and 3-year-olds to like preschool for socializing and,
Great.
practicing school basically. And the day that I dropped her off, it was awful. Like they tore her out of my arm, and I could hear her crying as I walked down the hall, and it just didn't sit right. I was like, how can I do this? Like, why would God give me my children to have them just for a few years, just to pass them off to somebody else to spend most of their waking hours? So God really planted a seed in my heart and just started to prompt that desire to homeschool my children and spend their waking hours together with me. And so that really just started to grow. I started to reach out to other moms that I knew had been homeschooled or were planning to homeschool or were actually homeschooling currently. And we just started to dive into a little bit. My husband was not super thrilled at first. He was like, okay, this is weird. They can get a private education for free. Why would we homeschool them? And so I didn't really fight it too much. I wanted to be, submissive to his authority and what he thought was best. But I'm also a little bit stubborn. So I just started doing preschool curriculum at home with our daughter. And honestly, after the first year, he realized, like, she's learning a lot. Like, there's so much value in this. And so he started to come around to the idea of it. And then long story short, here we are. But it really is, it's the whole thing of how man plans and God laughs. This is my theme for my life. Like, I had a plan. They would absolutely go to public school. And he very quickly changed me into a 180. And I'm so thankful that he did.
Yeah, wow. And I do think a lot of parents think that sending their kids to preschool is just what you're supposed to do. And if that's what works for you and that is, you know, the direction that God's leading your family, that's one thing, but it's not required and it's not necessarily the best option. Being home with your family is a great option. And in fact, a lot of preschools, I remember I worked for in a preschool for 1 year. And it just surprised me how much they work to make the preschool look like home. Like they bring in all of those raw materials and the play kitchen and the play tools and all the tactile things, all the things that you would just normally do at home, making dinner with or making lunch with mom or helping fold the laundry, all those things. So it is really a great option for them to be home with mom and to be with their family. And it's not necessarily something that is the ultimate or like the gold standard. It's not necessarily where we need to start.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just ask you, you guys are living on a farm now, but you didn't always live on a farm. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So I always grew up doing the homesteading thing, like suburban homesteading, gardening and canning with my mom. We would go and pick the fruit and do all of those things. And then when my husband and I got married, of course, we started a garden right away. But then again, God like planted this little homesteading seed, and we lived in town on a 15th of an acre. Super small property, and by the time we moved, we had maxed out that property. We lived there for 11 years, and our garden had started as a 4x4, and by the time we moved, it was a 30x7, I think, like 30 feet by 7 feet. It like stretched the whole backyard. We had backyard chickens. I was growing stuff on the side of our house, like in the flower beds. We had completely maxed it out, and we had maxed out the house also because we had 5 children at that time. And so we started looking for a property, and we thought, okay, we definitely want a half an acre because then we can do some more things. And then we started looking, and we thought an acre would be great. 2 acres would be amazing, but it's probably unattainable. And then after 9 months of house hunting, God brought us over across the river to a different county, and he dropped this 19-acre farm on our lap. And so we said, okay, we're going to jump in. And we actually moved here right when COVID was going on. So that's a whole nother story. Lincoln and I moved our entire house over the course of 8 days by ourselves with a flatbed trailer. But we got here, and we just didn't know how the world was going. So our 5-year plan became a 3-month plan. And we jumped in, and we got a milk cow and turkeys and meat chickens, more laying chickens, ducks, pigs. What else did we get? We got another dog. Like, we jumped in and did all of the things. And so we are basically first-generation farmers that are teaching ourselves through Instagram and YouTube and connecting with other farmers. And it's been a wild ride, but it's been so much fun.
Yeah, that is so cool. And it's been fun to watch you because we knew you guys when you were here in town. And we came over for dinner one night. I remember this. This was years ago. So this must have been like 8 or 9 years ago. And I remember going outside and seeing like, wow, she did all this with this yard. You had chickens. Your garden was huge. And it was really inspiring how you just totally used up that space that you had in town, filling every little square inch with what you could grow and raise for your family. So that's so cool. You definitely deserve the 20-acre farm because you are the person that would know best how to use it fully, to use all of it.
Oh, we try. It is so much fun. We're learning things every year. I'm certainly not an expert, but it's been fun, like trying new things and like just adventuring. We have so much space to try out different aspects of farming. So it's been a real fun adventure.
Yeah. So your homeschool, if you could describe your homeschool, you've said that you would call it farm schooling. And I love this. I know a lot of people, this is like a direction that they are headed in or is a part of their family, or they maybe want to be in. They want to move more towards homesteading and growing more on their own property. Can you just lay that out for someone that is like, this is what I want. This is the dream that I have.
Okay, so we obviously see a lot of value in the academic side of homeschooling, allowing children to learn at their own pace, in their own learning style. But I think that the way our society is shifting right now, we're recognizing that just pumping information into your children and sending them out to college isn't really serving us, because the majority of children come out from a college with a degree that most times they don't use, and they have years of debt that they need to pay off. And so I think our family's vision is preparing our children academically, but also showing them how to apply that, what they're learning, into the real world. So for example, math plays into a role with farm schooling, just with the business side of it and entrepreneurship and understanding your budget for feeding your animals and then how you can turn a profit. And science, farming is science. And so I think just incorporating life skills and applying what we're learning in the books to everyday life is something that's going to really serve our children well. Whether or not they get into farming, they're learning so much on a level of character building and just life skills in general. So I think that's kind of the direction that our family focuses on. We still do a lot of book work in the recommended amount, but it's a whole different level of schooling when you can take what you learn and apply it to everyday life.
Yeah. And I've seen even in our own kids, the more life skills they do, or even the more games they play. Like Will's been into Yahtzee lately, and when it came to just teaching him how to add double digits, add and subtract, he was already there. Like he already knew how to do it. So when I went to teach him, it was like, it took like 5 minutes and he was getting it. So I see with our kids too, that if you put so much emphasis on the academic side of things, that you do make things a little bit harder for yourself. Letting them experiment and do all these life skills, working out in the garden. Our kids have learned so much about measurement and so many other things, but just those life skills help that when you're doing some of that work academically, they're already a leg up. They already have a better idea of how to accomplish something. And so I can definitely see that in our kids as well.
Mm-hmm. I think they understand the value too. Like if you just provide them with a lesson and say you have to learn this, 9 times out of 10 they're going to be like, this is boring. I don't understand why I need to use this. And then when you apply it to everyday life, it makes sense for them. It's like, oh, okay, now I understand why I'm learning this math skill or these facts about science, or it just makes sense to them. And I think they recognize the value in it, and so they're more motivated to learn, and they appreciate it a whole lot more.
Yeah, I agree. So for the mom that would like to move towards something like this, can you give some ideas of where they can get started?
I think the easiest way to start farm schooling is with a garden. There's so much to be learned from the time you obtain the seeds and you plant it up until when you harvest and even after. And there's so much value to that. You can tie in just watching the seed germinate, and you can document the growth, like every week, measure how that seedling is growing. You can talk about what a plant needs to grow. You can just track its growth and then talk about the care that it needs. And then as you actually harvest the fruit, the children can see like all that hard work that went into it. Honestly, I think they eat more vegetables when they garden because they have some pride in like growing that. But then you can also talk about the nutrition side of it. Why do we grow these vegetables? How are they benefiting your body? So that's one lesson that they get from gardening, but also they get to practice on their diligence and their skills of sticking with something. They need to be weeding those plants in the garden. They need to be watering them if we're not getting enough rain. They need to be diligently taking care of that. And that's character building. And it shows your kids that they can do hard things. Like for us, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. I'm going to water my garden a little bit. It's very therapeutic for me. But for kids, it's really not. And so for them to be able to say, wow, I accomplished this. I started a seed. I helped it grow. I picked the fruit or the vegetables. And now I'm going to get to process it, cook a meal with mom and eat it. It shows a lot of value, and they love it. So that's probably the easiest way to get started. If you're looking for more of like a science project aspect, you can start a bunch of different seeds and try watering it with different things. So, use the same seed. That's your constant, right? And say you plant a tomato seed and then you water it 1 cup with water, and then you water the next one with soda and the other one with very high salty water, and then another one with vinegar. And you can see how the plants respond to it. And your kids can kind of document that too. So that's another neat idea. A really fun, practical way to farm school is to get chicks. This is the time of year where tractor supply and, the mills, they all have their chicks. And honestly, with egg prices, I think everybody's getting chicks right now. But
and I heard that everything is delayed with ordering chicks. I think Nelson was going to order our chicks, and he's like, oh, we're back. It's backed up till like July.
Yeah, the one local hatchery is completely sold out of layer chicks. We put our order in January because this has happened before, and I was like, I'm not going to miss out.
Yeah.
It's the time of year where everybody's getting their chicks. But if you can get your hands on them, okay, they're super cute and super fun to take care of. But you can go through the biology of it. You can talk about the gestation in the egg and how a chick develops. You can talk about caring for the animal, being a good steward of what God has given us. And when you're caring for an animal, even more so than a garden, that animal depends on you. So your child has to be consistently working to take care. You can talk about health issues that might come up in chicks. Like there are so many different conversations you can have, and it opens so many doors for learning. And that's a really fun way to get into farm schooling as well. So those are probably my top 3 favorite tips.
You guys have done you've hatched chicks, right?
Yes, we actually have an incubator set right now too. Yep.
Okay, yes. I thought, because that is something we've never done, but I thought would be really cool to try. The kids would probably love watching that. We watched online, what was it? Oh, we were studying bluebirds, and we did a YouTube clip that showed them hatching from the shell, and it took a while, but they had never seen it before, so to see it in person would be so cool.
It is really neat, and you can actually candle the eggs as they're growing and see the development.
Wow.
Usually by day 7, if you turn off all the lights, most incubators will have a light on top, and you set the egg on top, and so the light shines through the shell, and so you can see the vein development by day 7, and by day 14 you can sometimes even see the chick moving in there a little bit. So we'll candle them a couple times just to check development and see if they're growing. But it is so neat to see the entire process and how hard that chick works to get out of the shell.
Yeah, that's cool. That's something I'd like to do with our kids. We've never done that.
Probably the last one, to just encourage your child in the avenue of entrepreneurship. I would probably encourage you to expand on the gardening or some aspect of homesteading. It can even be, baking something in the kitchen, making fresh bread, any element of homesteading that you can create value with and sell, and encourage your child to start their own little side business. Because not only are they learning the hard work, they're learning the skill of making the bread or growing the vegetables, or you guys can jelly together or something like that. But they're providing value for other people as well and providing a service for them. And then they have the opportunity to kind of look at the math side of it. What do supplies cost, and how can that translate into a price that you're going to charge for your product? So this would probably apply more towards older children, or even if you have chickens selling their eggs, they can have their little business of selling eggs. And so you can calculate, okay, the chicks cost us this much when we purchase them. We raised them for 6 months before they laid eggs. We put in this amount for feed costs, and just looking at all of the prices of it. And you can go way down into this, even creating spreadsheets and take it to a whole different level. But there's so many opportunities for entrepreneurship and just teaching that to your children. So that's another practical way to apply farm schooling.
Yeah. And don't you guys isn't there an event at a barn that you go to, and your kids have made things and they all come? I forget the name of it.
We did do a Christmas market the past 2 years.
That's what I was thinking of, yes. So they made products for it, and they go, and everyone comes and they sell their products, which is such a neat idea for them to work towards, making things for Christmas, making them for this event where they can sell it and make a profit. And those kind of real life practical skills are things that really motivate kids.
Right, absolutely. And I see that as we've done this for a few years in a row, not just the Christmas market, but our kids, they raised money for a pony, and they're always looking for different things that they can sell. But I'm seeing that muscle strengthen. They're always looking for a business that they can start, which I think is fantastic, because I personally I'm thankful for my job as a nurse. I'm thankful for my husband's job, but I think deep down in our core, most Americans don't want to work for somebody. I think we want to work for ourselves. And so to see that really developing in our children, and them really being inspired to start of their own business, whatever that might be, I think that's just amazing for them. And it's going to set them up for success when they're older, to show that they can create their own business, they can work for themselves, and they have the skills to do it, and that they can do hard things. Being an entrepreneur is not easy. It definitely takes a lot of work, but our heart is really to teach our children that they can do hard things regardless of what that might be.
And that might be the best skill that they're learning, is that character. I think that's the thing that sometimes we leave out when we talk about homeschooling our kids, raising our kids, is just those character traits. They really carry through, and if we can teach them to persevere during some of the difficult things that they have to do, that's just going to take them so far in life, because life's not easy. And sometimes you do have to swim upstream and you have to work hard. But that's just such a great skill to teach kids. Mm-hmm. So you're a mom of 7 and you have a wide range of ages. So I'm sure that you have some tough days as a mom, just homeschooling them and doing all the farm work. How do you push through on those hard days? What keeps you going? How do you keep your chin up?
I think that it's a day-by-day situation. You just have to evaluate, like, how is today going? Do we really need to push through and get all of the academics done? Or do we need to really step back? And I need to self-reflect and see, what is my job as a mom? Is my job to check off the boxes for school, or is my job to really care for their hearts and build their character? A lot of times there are days where we are behind in our school because I have to stop and talk to somebody about their character. Like, how would you... Yeah. How should you have responded to this? Or how can we work through this? And you're teaching the conflict resolution or problem solving. So to get through those hard days, it really takes a lot of evaluation and stepping back to see, like, okay, do we need to continue pushing on? Or do we take a step back and maybe just have a day where we focus on just reading and getting things done? And sometimes we dangle a carrot, like, okay, guys, we really do need to push through math and reading today. It's a beautiful day. Let's try to get these done quickly, and then you can have the rest of the day to play.
Yeah.
And there are definitely days we're on the farm where we just have to put bookwork aside completely. Like, if we have a cow that's giving birth, I need to be out there with them. And honestly, a lot of the times the kids are there too, because they get to witness it. And so we'll count it as a school day because they're seeing life being born. So it really is a day-by-day thing that we kind of evaluate. Do we push through, or do we kind of change our plan for the day?
Yeah, that's great. And we do the same thing here. Sometimes we just know when we need to just step away from it all and do something different. It doesn't mean that we're not learning or we're not doing something active that day, but it's just we need to do something different to just bring some life back and some excitement back into our home. So that's great. That is very practical, something that I think we've used a lot and will be really helpful for moms. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks, Leah. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your life and your family and your farm schooling with my viewers. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I learned so much from you. So I'm just honored to be here and sharing part of this with you. This is so great.
Oh, thanks. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me and Leah today. I hope this has encouraged you, given you some great ideas. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.